let's see. Yeah, no, Venezuela, the daily journal of the crisis. It's very nice to see. What am I missing? I don't really think so. Venezuela gets worse than ever before. On the site, the president Nicolas Maduro remains firmly than ever before holding on to his power position as the heir of the Hugo Chavez, who actually is protected diplomatically and supported by Iran and Cuba and Russia to maintain his power position while waging a lofty power struggle. And also, he's been supported by Turkey. On the other side, there comes yet another self-proclaimed young president, Juan Guaidó, who actually gets supported by Donald Trump and a majority of the European countries. Guaidó literally tackles the corruption and the ruinage of the economy by the older regime. Million Venezuelan people who have already flown away from the country while seeking an exile in the presence of Maduro are actually making their comeback to be on the demonstration by going on the streets or taking to the streets to claim the right for this new president Guaidó, as they have already been flown away from the country before in the time of the Maduro. I already actually have said that they have already sought after. I have already actually said that, I'm not lying. And economically, Venezuela goes much tougher by going down, as it is bled to death. And each week, demonstrators and the police violence go after one another. 200 people so far were pronounced to be dead from that. And a 4-year goes in this way with no progress, only getting down spiraling. And the regime stabilized its own country with one's own iron fist and with the deliberate incarceration, and imprisonment. And our reporter, Gonzalo Arizon, has already witnessed the Hugo Chavez during the revolution in Venezuela from the very beginning. He has already experienced what it was like to be in the country in revolution. And one's report from today's Venezuela is the actual daily journal of the crisis, which threatens Venezuela to be destructed and broken. I don't really need to think about it. It's very obvious. It's 6 degrees in Gyeongju tomorrow. I don't need to think twice about it. It's very obvious. It's very, very easy. The great history of the animal evolution. The Roman genie and the French arena. The frontier borderlines of Canada, the savage prairies. That means a wild wilderness prairie. I don't need to think about it. The very great differences in the scenery and the landscape. Les grandes variétés de landscape paysage, c'est très sympa. Parce que c'est pas difficile pour moi. Bisons, buffaloes, and dogs, prairie dogs, and wolves, and coyotes, and the birds, and the castors occupy the swampland marsh that actually would be composed of the original Aborigine indigenous population of the Grand Prairie in wilderness even before the arrival of the European population as Europeans. This geographic space is equally disseminated with millions, thousands of lakes, where one might actually discover such a diversified presence of and stockage and a barrage of casters, which actually organize all different facets of our environmental ecosystem by comprehending different aspects. Mere means marsh, wetlands. Wetlands and marshy and swamplands. You understand that, right? Marsh. M-A-R-S-H. Marsh. Bisons, buffaloes, type of water buffaloes. Technically, there is no difference between bisons and water buffaloes, and chien de prairie, the prairie dogs, and meerkats, type of prairie dogs, and wolves and wolves. Wolf, in plural, it spells like W-O-L-V for victory E-S, right? Coyotes, right? Orange birds and castors and there are also like cows and mammals, right? They actually occupy the entire marshland. They actually constitute the great population of the Grand Prairie. Prairie means, it's more like meadow. It's a very wild landscape that has been completely with no mountain, treacherous ranges and ridges, right? It's really wide west wilderness, right? But it's really in savage states. That means that's barbaric. There is no civilized infrastructure. It's been untouched, pristine, bucolic view. It's really easy. To me, especially easy. The youngness to sell. Let's try to actually say the youth to sell. I should. Trip to the origins of the terrain. Earth. The Earth. The film of the Pyramid K. Canada. The crossing to the discovery of the world. The glaciers of the Arctic to the Atlantic, the bore of the boreal, of Aurora Boreals, the film by Alain Diane. Literally join us, subscribe to our channels to actually, enjoy this programs without actually getting told about it. Creek crossing and discovering. This is really a crossing mythic event to cover up the borderline using a ferry boat in a legendary condition to cover up the magnificent embarkation of the traditional landing all aboard. The voyage of a dream on the different oceans and different rivers of the world. Discover the more happiness and pleasures of the life. And to follow the team in the milieu of the ferry boat. Ferry boat infidelity, the way of employment, usage. Mode d'emploi means usage application. If you actually purchase a manual, it means user's guidance. That's a mode d'emploi. How to use this. Infidelity, then you're not being you're keeping a fidelity to your husband and wife. Today, 1 man out of 2 and 1 woman out of 3 commit or have admitted that they've been seduced by someone other than their spouse by being closely connected to extramarital relationships, right? The French and the Italian are the champions in the material and the reason. Infidelity, how to handle it, how to use it. Wow, the French and the Italian. I was so right about it. I know. So 1 out of 2 men and then 1 out of 3 women already, admit that they have committed their own wrongdoing by being, seduced or attracted to someone. And that's really kind of crazy. 130,000 new divorces are being pronounced each year, just like the previous each moment. And the one that has already actually been notified with a greater frequency to be forgiven, that's really the infidelity. Almost 1/3 of the men, one tier of the men would already be wronged and seduced by falling off the wagon. C'est que l'on a le plus de mal à pardonner. That means that is one has the worst to forgive. That's a fidelity violation, breach. The French, as an expatriate, to live in Russia. So right now we actually try to go out of the country to reach the coldest region of one of the coldest region of our global community. Trying to actually go to the coldest region of the earth. I don't really need to think about it. 10 accused who are already committed such a crazy wrongdoing. They have already become such a crazy when they are actually being condemned to perpetuity. That means they have already actually given a life sentence in prison. They have already become really crazy. Very narcissistic, perverse, one invisible violence. It's very obvious. This documentary, written and realized and directed by Delphine Dilly, and broadcast and released by France 5 on 8th January 2019, gives a word of the 5 different women who have already survived the same takeover and hijacking by the narcissistic perverse. Having actually already been intertwined with this type of genre of the human trash by myself, without having been submitted to this low level, I actually post this type of argument for all the people who should actually remain very vigilant, who would actually feel the loss, to actually help them by make their agitation in the reaction to narcissistic perversion. It's really easy.